With more and more tour operators starting to feature Zimbabwe in their brochures again, is it right for tourists to return?
Hello and welcome to the Travel Show. This week I'm in Zimbabwe at one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, Victoria Falls. They are absolutely breathtaking and the sound is incredible. In fact, being here is making me feel quite emotional.
Also coming up on the programme, Henry goes behind the scenes in London's West End to discover the secrets behind box office success.
Now use the mask as well. Good.
And Carmen's here with tips on how to improve your holiday snaps in this month's trending travel. But first, Zimbabwe, a country that some say has some of the most amazing natural sights and best wildlife parks in southern Africa. But after years of political isolation and economic turmoil, can it turn its fortunes around by reclaiming its title as a top travel destination?
Zimbabwe!
Victoria Falls is known locally as Mosiwatunya, the smoke that thunders, and it's easy to see why. The water vapour from the cascading falls can be seen for miles around. It really does look like smoke from a fire. They are arguably the country's most famous landmark. With an estimated 540 million cubic metres of water plunging every minute into a chasm 106 metres deep, they are without a doubt one of the world's grandest natural spectacles.
The famous British explorer David Livingstone was the first European to see the falls. Now, he discovered them back in 1855, which I think means he's the first tourist to visit here.
Livingstone named his discovery in honour of Britain's Queen Victoria, and straddling the border of modern-day Zambia and Zimbabwe, more than 3.5 million people come here every year. I've been told that one of the best ways to experience the Victoria Falls is from the air, so I'm going to take this helicopter. I'm really looking forward to this. This should be fun. This is why people come to Zimbabwe, to just enjoy the natural beauty of the falls. And I think what is so breathtaking, so jaw-dropping about it is that's natural. It's not made by humans. It's just, it's the earth. It's part of our history. Tourism in Zimbabwe was once the country's biggest industry, but political unrest and controversial land reforms coupled with international sanctions have seen visitor numbers plummet over the last 10 years. But plans are underway to try and change that. Oh, look at that! This is the Victoria Falls Hotel, and it's an amazing place. It feels like it's quite literally history oozing out of the walls. It's one of the oldest hotels around here, and it's definitely the grandest. And it was built back in 1904, and I very much doubt they would have allowed someone like me to stay here back then. Since the country was granted independence back in 1980, a program of wealth and land redistribution aimed at eradicating previous inequalities have led to political and economic turmoil and negative headlines around the world. No surprise then, many governments advised their citizens to stay away. 7 years ago, tourism flatlined, then almost disappeared. Now they're talking recovery.
In the tourism sector, we were largely affected by negative travel advisories emanating from Europe and the United States. This is where governments basically want their citizens to say, you cannot visit Zimbabwe, it's not safe. And today, we enjoy a clean bill of health.
So do you think there are still negative perceptions of Zimbabwe?
We must acknowledge that. This is why continuously we need to tell our own story out there through this bridge that we call tourism. It is the bridge that we should never shatter, notwithstanding how much we may disagree as nation states politically. We must keep the peace bridge, the tourism bridge, intact so that our people can walk back and forth.
Now, nobody's denying that there are still unsolved economic and social issues in Zimbabwe. But despite that, the government is pressing ahead with a series of developments aimed at growing the country's tourist industry. A loan from the Chinese has meant that work is now underway on a new terminal at Victoria Falls Airport, which will mean that direct international flights will be able to land here, something local tour operators have welcomed.
There's a strong vision that this is going to be a hub for the region. At the moment, most things hub out of Johannesburg. So you fly all the way to Johannesburg, which is 1,200 kilometers south, and you turn around and you come 1,200 kilometers north to access all of this region.
It's not very practical.
It's not very practical, both in time and cost. So it's going to be very much more practical to come into this region. Once you get the direct flights coming in direct to the falls, once the airport opens.
The other main reason people come here is to see the big five: lion, leopard, rhino, buffalo, and elephants. These majestic animals come here every day to drink. We were told to keep quiet because if spooked, they could charge.
This is so cool. I'm in a hide, which is pretty close to our hotel, and it's like I'm watching a wildlife soap opera. I've got warthog, elephant, impala, and even a crocodile, all within touching distance. They're just right there.
While African elephants are considered endangered, there are an estimated 300,000 in the wild across the whole of southern Africa. But here in Zimbabwe, politicians are claiming they will need to cull elephants because of the growing population. Instead, they plan to export large numbers of elephants abroad, something which has angered wildlife campaign groups concerned at the stress the animals endure when caught and separated from their families. Despite the political and economic problems here, the vision is to build and invest. There are even plans to create a Disney-style theme park close to the falls. They're all part of an ambition to revive the tourist industry and match the heyday of the 1980s and 90s, a time before sanctions, travel advisories and negative headlines took Zimbabwe for many off the travel map. And if you're thinking of heading to the Victoria Falls anytime soon, here's some travel show tips on how to get the best out of your time here. See the falls from both sides. You can apply for a new joint Zimbabwe-Zambia uni visa. This means that you can now enter both countries using this dual visa, which is valid for 30 days. So far, travellers from over 40 countries can apply. The Victoria Falls are their most spectacular in February and March, when the river is typically in full flow and the mist and spray can be seen for miles around. October through November is when the water level is at its lowest and the weather is hot and humid. And finally, for those adventurous types, there are plenty of activities to try your hand at, from zip wires and bungee jumping from the Victoria Falls Bridge. But as ever, make sure you use an accredited operator. And if you're tempted to test your nerves, check the terms of your travel insurance.
Now it's time to see what else is happening around the world. Here's your travel update.
Across to Southeast Asia, where there was mayhem in Myanmar and battle in the streets of Bangkok when tourists and locals drew their water guns. It was all in good spirits though, cooling off in one of the hottest months of the year to celebrate their traditional New Year's. In North Korea, foreign runners taking part in the Pyongyang Marathon got to experience a different side of the country, which is notoriously restrictive for travellers. The marathon was cancelled for foreigners in February due to concerns they might bring Ebola across its borders, but the decision was reversed shortly afterwards. And if that doesn't seem like enough of a challenge, there's always the North Pole Marathon, which took place last week over waters of the frozen Arctic Sea, just 49 kilometres from the top of the world.
Still to come on the travel show.
Henry tries his hand at dancing Lion King style in London's West End. And Carmen's here with her pick of what's trending in the world of travel.
The travel show, your essential guide wherever you're heading.
Hello and welcome to Trending Travel, where we explore what's hot online in the world of travel. I'll be bringing you through those essential apps, videos and blogs to take with you when you leave home. First off, let's take a look at the apps that have been on our radar. Like so many of you, I love having photos like these from my travels. So this month, we're going to turn our attention to travel photography. And if, like me, you're not always happy with the end result, we invited award-winning travel photographer Philip Lee Harvey, who took these stunning pictures, to give us some tips. He started off by answering some of your questions about travel photography using the new live streaming app Periscope. The app comes hot on the heels of similar app Meerkat. They let you broadcast what you're seeing from your phone live to the world.
Okay, the interesting questions just come in. What makes a great travel shot? Well, to me, it should be informative, it should be aspirational, and it should be beautiful. You shouldn't give all the information away. You should allow the viewer to dream and add the last part of the picture to what you're doing.
Now, whether you love testing out the latest filters or you prefer playing with framing, there's never been more ways to capture your travels and share them with your followers. We asked Philip to try his photography skills on some of the newest and biggest camera apps. Camera Plus is a well-established app for iOS. It's more expensive than some photography apps out there, but it's got loads of features to let you capture that shot just how you want it.
Really easy, quick zoom, as well as one box for focus and one for exposure. This gives me an amazing amount of control. If I can just come a little bit lower there, it's abstract, but I like it.
Afterlight is a photo editing app that's available on iOS and Android. It's not as feature-rich for when you're taking photos, but it's got loads of options for editing afterwards.
From now on, Afterlight, which has got some amazing things you can do after the picture's taken. Retrospectively, you can change the colour temperature, the saturation, the brightness, the crops. But it's not as intuitive, I find, as some of the other apps. I want to try out another app, which is an Instagram app called Layout, which allows me to put 5 or 6 pictures together, and that may be able to tell the story a lot better than maybe one picture on a grey day.
Layout from Instagram is new for iOS. It gives you an easy way to pull together lots of photos into one image. It's very user-friendly, but don't worry if you don't quite end up with images like Philip's. Layout is due out on Android in the coming months. We love staying connected with you all online, and don't forget, we're on Facebook, Twitter and email. Your pictures have been flooding in this month through our social media feeds. Get in touch by Twitter on Tuesdays using the hashtag #TravelTuesday and we'll show you the best pictures that come in. And regular Travel Tuesdays contributor Lee Williams says he gets the most out of these shots using a smartphone. So you don't need the latest DSLR to get those stunning pics from your travels.
Show us where you are. We love hearing from you. Now to finish, we've been looking at ways you can get expert tips from those in the know. And we've been reaching out to people who live, breathe and blog travel.
Samantha Murphy's Real Picture travel blog is one of the many blogs out there that blurs the line between travel diary and photography. Dave and Deb from The Planet D have built up a stunning collection of photos on their blog. And finally, Gary Arndt is a top travel photographer with a huge following online through his blog and social media. We asked him how you can get your spectacular pics seen and shared all over the world.
I put a photo on my website every day now for over 2,700 straight days. It forces you to improve over time. To do it day after day after day is how you really build an audience in the long run.
And we'll be hearing more from the travel bloggers next month. And don't forget to check out our website for all the ways that you can get in touch, or if you've seen anything online that you think we should be looking at. See you next time.
And to end this week, Henry heads to London's West End, where for many people, the highlight of a visit to the capital is a chance to see a theatre show. The city's theatres are currently enjoying a boom in popularity and ticket sales. Henry went to find out why.
It's fair to say that London's West End has had its share of bad press in recent years. There were too many so-called jukebox musicals. You'd go there for a sing-along, but it was less and less a place for serious theatre-goers. But things are changing. Some say that London's West End is seeing something of a renaissance. In fact, as cinema tickets take a tumble, West End theatre tickets are going on the up and up. Last year, more than £600 million was generated in ticket sales at the UK box office. That's up 1% on the previous year.
I think in the past it has received a bit of criticism for the kind of variety of work that's on offer. Some of it fair, some of it not. I think the main criticism was that maybe there wasn't enough variety, and I think what you're seeing now is a huge variety. So you do still have these jukebox shows and audiences like them, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they're being joined by some really exciting new work, and I think there's a real range of shows that audiences can choose from now.
Move with the times or you'll be left behind.
Shows like Golem. This unusual play tells the story of one man and his rather strange creature, which appears only in projected form. And it's fair to say, this play never was written for a West End audience.
We opened our show, Golem, at Christmas at the Young Vic, and ticket sales were excellent. It all sold really quickly, and the audience, there just seemed to be a real buzz in the audience, a real excitement. And I think the general consensus was that people really hadn't seen anything quite like it before. There's lots of film and animation, live music. The actors interact with the animation in a way that's not usually done, so the whole thing looks a bit like a sort of graphic novel that's kind of burst into life.
Supervisor's attention required.
So we'll try a, do you want to be a nobody or an everybody?
Despite the show not being traditional West End fodder, the bigger theatres were soon lining up at Suzanne's door. And last week, Golem started a run at the West End's Trafalgar Studios.
We are really excited about going to the West End. We like the idea of broadening our audience. That's been something that's been important to us from the beginning, and seeing how that West End audience kind of take our work.
It's clear that today's West End is willing to take risks on lesser-known shows. But most most tourists don't come to see a challenging play.
So this is our big costume quick change area.
Richard Oriel is the general manager for The Lion King, the musical.
I think it's a story that everyone can identify with. I think it speaks to young and old, and it lives very much in the world of masks and puppetry to tell a much loved tale that will have been familiar to people through the film.
I play the role of Rafiki. She's a baboon. With my character, I speak Zulu and I make a lot of noises, so the click sound. I use the kopa, kala, kula, so people love to hear that. It's the circle of life.
It should be said that coming to the theatre in London ain't easy on the wallet. Even the cheapest tickets to The Lion King are over £40, and you're looking at well over £100 to get the best view of the action. While over on Broadway, stateside, the average price to see the same production is £150. But you are getting more than an expensive sing-along.
Fairly snug.
The Lion King in particular has become famous for its innovative masks and puppetry. And I can't let the actors have all the fun.
Down and extend, that's where you would have extended. Yes, keep low.
It's time for me to become the lion.
Pretty good. Menace, menace, menace. You have to put intention behind it. It's nothing without intention.
The movement's based on a Javanese style of dance, almost balletic.
I lost all coordination with me concentrating on moving these two little levers.
If you put it out, you're an animal, you're an animal, you're an animal, you're human.
You're a pro.
Well, that's it from the travel show this week, but coming up next week... Now, we've all experienced a delayed train or two, but this one's been out of action for 24 years. Henry takes a trip on the train line that's reconnecting Sri Lanka after its brutal civil war. That looks like a good one. Make sure you catch that if you can. But if you can't wait until then, remember you can always find us on social media, and you know how it works by now. All the details are on your screens. But in the meantime, from me and all the travel show team here in Zimbabwe, it's goodbye.